So, here for a talk. This time it's about the Smash community. And I've even had my own controversy separately with the community because I made a whipping joke. But this isn't about that. This is about the case of Nairobi Quezada, former, or more commonly rather, known as Nairo. And his situation with Captain Zack. And the fact that people are trying to spin this like, oh, Nairo's a victim is fucking baffling. I'm glad BGBC shut down so Nairo isn't able to attend tournaments there because that's one of the groups rather that has unbanned him. And when it comes to Collision, people are saying, "Oh, he can't go to Collision because he can't play on stream." It's a pretty fucking simple way to get around it. Don't stream the sets he plays. He's still allowed on YouTube for some fucking reason. And more viewers will come from the YouTube recordings of the sets than they will from the live chat because they're up for much longer. And YouTube is just generally a much bigger platform overall than Twitch. Like, it's so fucking stupid to say. Also, I'll put that aside, and I'm going to talk about this argument real quick. Oh, he doesn't go to tournaments. That doesn't mean that he shouldn't be banned. It's one of the most ridiculous arguments that I have ever heard for anyone. There was, I believe it was Melee specifically, but a Melee player named Colin Baldassar who went by Sweets. And he received a life sentence for murdering his mother. And you don't hear anyone say, oh, he doesn't even go to tournaments, there's no reason to ban him. Because he did something reprehensible and unforgivable, and just in case he ends up like breaking out, or he gets let off early for good behavior or something like that, he should still not be allowed to go back to those kinds of tournaments. He should not be allowed around any sane person. And the fact that people are trying to make this argument with Nairo and blatantly ignore the same argument or blatantly ignore the same situation with Sweets is fucking baffling. It just goes to show how much of the community favoritism has rotted the brains of so much of the Smash community. And this isn't even talking about the whole fucking Steve argument, which I can get into on a different fucking day, because I have some choice fucking words for a lot of the things that people say in that argument. But for now, just holy fucking shit. I don't care how many years have passed since the situation has fizzled out. This is one of the most sickening things I have seen in any gaming community. This was, at the time, a 20-year-old man who was publicly flirting with a minor and let that same minor cuddle in his lap. And then, not only those, he accepted sleeping in the same hotel room as that 15-year-old. But, oh no, he can just flip the allegation around, say that the minor raped him. Oh, he's completely forgiven, let him back into the community, free Nairo, free Nairo, free Nairo. And people want to gloss over the fact that, okay, let's even just take everything that he said at face value. Let's assume that everything Nairo was saying about being raped in his sleep was the truth, and not some bullshit lie to cover his ass, because he knew that if he didn't cover his ass, that there's no way he would have any sort of platform. Let's just assume that it's completely true, Nairo wasn't lying about anything there. It still should never have gone that far. And I've heard people making the arguments, oh, the flirting was a joke. That doesn't matter. It was a minor. A 15-year-old. You don't make flirting jokes with 15-year-olds when you are 20 years old. That is predatory. That is creepy. That is pedophilic behavior. Regardless of whether it is a joke or not, you do not flirt with a minor. And you do not let a minor cuddle on your lap. Let alone, the next step, you do not sleep in the same hotel room as a minor. When there is that big of an age gap. And I'm going to throw some shade onto Zach's parents as well here, because they let their child go to tournaments without any parental supervision, without any guardian, even if it wasn't directly the parents. Like, they couldn't have had like a grandparent or an aunt or uncle or some sort of adult to protect him go with him. And people are going to say shit about, oh, Zach was doing this to other adults. That doesn't make it okay. Zach is absolutely guilty of a lot of his actions as well. I'm not going to try to act like Zach hasn't done anything terrible, because Zach has done the same shit with multiple other adults in the Smash community. Two things are true at once. Zach is a completely reprehensible human being because he's tried to string along multiple adults in the same game, just like he did for Nairo. However, that does not remove any of the accountability that should be taken by the adults who have fallen into the trap, so to speak. It is your responsibility as the adult to make sure it doesn't go that far. Period. DeBuzz put it brilliantly. When Captain Zach tried to flirt with DeBuzz, DeBuzz just pushed him away and went on with his life. Because, as the adult in the situation, it was his responsibility. Period. There's no extra explanation. It is on the adult to make sure that they don't fall into that web and start flirting with a minor or letting them cuddle and anything like that. And the fact that people have actively re-platformed this predator is fucking sickening. The Smash community is outright one of the worst communities out there on a moral standpoint. And I will stand on that hill proudly. Yes, I know that there are communities like the Sonic community, the Pokemon community, the Loud House community, but I have confidence in saying that Smash is up there with some of the worst. Not only because of all the sexual harassment and sexual assault cases, and there's another one recently with Mango, which he always rubbed me the wrong way, so my feelings about him ended up being right, but I'll save that for a different time because this isn't about him. This is about the Nairo case. And it's fucking sickening that someone who did these things with the minors replatformed because they flipped an allegation and actively had favor from the community. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I want to make it clear. I do not support Ally's actions. I do not support Zero's actions and his messages with Katie. I'm simply bringing this up as a point of argument to show the Smash community's favoritism. When Zero tried to make a video addressing his situation, massive backlash and outrage at every corner. Even though he showed that there was no proof of specifically the allegations that Jisoo and Levin were throwing at him, and we had multiple eyewitnesses, both at the Sky House and the minors he supposedly showed hentai to, saying that, no, that's false. I don't know where these things came from. He never actively showed porn to us, and he never actively played hentai at the Sky House. We have multiple accounts of people saying that. This is not about the Levin and Jisoo stuff, though. Like, that is one of the things he addressed, but this is mostly about the Katie situation, which I know the argument a lot of people are going to make. Yes, I know Skype messages can be easily falsified. You can change your name and such like that, but I still choose to believe in the screenshots, even if it's a bit risky for that, even if there is the chance, and a very likely chance, of it being fake. I still choose to believe it, and if that ends up being false, then that's on me, and I will do better. But if those screenshots are showing the true story, like I am choosing to believe, Zero absolutely deserved to be deplatformed, and he should not have been able to replatform. Predators do not change. They do not deserve to be replatformed. And Zero's case is, like I said before, one that was met with public outrage at every corner. Even though a lot of it was with him addressing the falsehoods of a lot of what was thrown at him and taking a lot to court. Then, after Zero, let's take a look at the case of Ally, another player who was, well, with Zack at a point, but in this case, it never went to the level of anything sexual, but he had a voluntary relationship with Zack. And there was the excuse Ally made that he was, I believe, 21, and then the age of consent in Canada where he lived was, I think, 16, which, by the way, this took place after the Nairo situation. But yeah, since the age consent in Canada, Ally said, was 16, he didn't think it was that big a deal since, at the time, Zack was of legal age. And when Ally tried to return, it was radio silent, nothing. And we can see the clear difference in the dichotomy between these three players. Nairo was one of the most beloved people in the Smash community overall. He was the one who was trying to claim Zero's #1 ranking. He was the one who he was the first player to ever beat Zero in a tournament set after Zero's winning streak started. He was the one to end the streak. He was, and unfortunately still is, one of the biggest members of the Smash community, and as such, it made it a lot easier for people to welcome him with open arms and not look into what actually happened. And I'm not saying that it's all favoritism, I'm just saying that it plays a big part in it. Because Zero, when we go back to his case, obviously met with outrage, for good reason, but a lot of it was internal biases from people because Zero was one of the most hated players. He was the player who had the 56 tournament winning streak. He was the most dominant player in the history of Smash. And if I remember properly, the first person to win an EVO without dropping any games. And he was cocky about it. He was confident, he was arrogant, and people fucking hated that from him. So, in a situation like this, then obviously what he did was already reprehensible, but people are going to be even more swayed to be more outraged than they otherwise would be because there are already preconceived notions and opinions of him due to what he was like before any of the allegations came out. And Ally, like I said, completely radio silent. He was a player that no one had any real strong emotions about one way or the other. Nobody really loved him too much, nobody really hated him too much, or at least not anybody with a large amount of influence. And he fell under the radar for a lot of when he was competing in Smash 4, and Brawl, and in Ultimate before he got banned for his actions. It is pretty clear to see the difference in the way these three players making their videos on their respective situations were treated. And it just makes it even more disgusting because people are letting their preconceived notions and pre-existing favoritism decide the way that they treat someone trying to return after a situation as serious as these have been. And the fact that favoritism is playing into it at all is sickening. All these players deserve their bans, none of them should be unbanned. These were all adults who knew what they were doing in the situation. Their actions were unforgivable and reprehensible, and the fact that one of them was replatformed is repulsive in every single way. And I will call this out until the day I fucking die. Reban Nairo. He should not be allowed at collision tournaments. And yes, I know he can't be on stream because Twitch would immediately ban it. But like I said earlier, there's an easy workaround. Don't stream his sets, just upload them to YouTube. Or stream them on a different platform. He should be rebanned from everything. He should not have his YouTube channel. He should not have any way to restore his platform. And the fact that there are still some top-level players like Light, Cosmos, and Mars that actively still collaborate with him after that, yeah, their shit should be checked as well. Because if you are actively spending time and hanging out with someone who has done the things that Nairo has done, that is something that needs to be looked into. It's not okay to be trying to have good times with someone who has done these sorts of things. And I will sit on that hill. There is no rehabilitation for predators. You cannot rehabilitate a predator. And that's what Zero, Nairo, and Ally are. Fuck the Smash community, full of a bunch of fucking idiots and some of the worst fucking people I've ever seen, actively replatforming a predator. So, yeah. Here's my message to all of you. You're fucking stupid, and you're fucking repulsive. Get fucked.